Okay, so yeah, welcome, Andrea. Tell us more about.
Ben, before we start, I need to introduce a new colleague, but some of you met him.
Hello, my name is Mauro the T-Rex, Mauro Tyrannosauro. I'm the new member of the Japan.
No, that was me with a special effect. But this is, we've been doing this, actually, no, Mauro already attended some past teleconference last year even. We will tell more about him later. Let me start sharing stuff. You might be curious to know that today's presentation also came out on an article in the local newspaper in Tuscany. If you are seeing this was just so more about this to follow. But what I wanted to start with is music, because we do our arts and science thing. So I will give this opening track. It's 2 minutes. Start. Okay, can you see me, hear me?
Yes.
Okay, just to reconnect. Now I will just keep the presentation so I'm not seeing you while showing this. Okay, so my name is sometimes Andrea Giacomelli, sometimes Jack O'Malley, sometimes Pibinco. Names are what people call us. And today I would like to give you an update, but this is a substantial next version of whatever I presented a couple of years ago when we met in Paris and then Brussels. So the jug band Colline Metallifere in the context of empowerment, inclusiveness, and equity. The concept of our project is that this was conceived as an international, we will see why, an intergenerational, as you may have gathered from what you saw, for example, collective, proposing a combination of music and environmental practice where melody, rhythm, storytelling, and outreach are merged as one. Where are we based? This is the core of the collective, so you might recognize this as central Italy with Tuscany, Umbria, and other bordering regions. And I put this light blue frame to sort of, it's a sort of in ecology, there is in zoology, the concept of home range, which is roughly an area where a species, a given individual of a species will roam for his functions. So this is roughly our base. We are in the southwestern quadrant of Toscana, here and there. And what you see here, the sort of the green area, well, see the hills north of Grosseto are in fact the Metalliferous hills. Say between Cecina, which you see at half of the screen, and Grosseto are these Metalliferous hills, and which we will be briefly explaining, and which are a lot of the core of what we do. And to better explain, most of you as non-Tuscan, possibly visitors of Toscana, have been instructed by the powers that be, which are dealing with tourism strategies, that Toscana is the land of sunflowers and other cute landscapes. By the way, I saw lots of more sunflowers in Hungary when I was there 3 years ago for a conference. But anyway, yeah, there is lots of agriculture. But the point is that this area, which I showed you, these Metalliferous hills, are an area where you will see as many sunflowers as much as industrial things, because this was, until Etruscan and Roman times, a mining region. And so there is a legacy. This is myself 10 days ago visiting one of these old mines, which have been revamped as museums. This is another, and there is this, the peculiarity of the area, in addition to the mining itself, you have geothermal energy. And the site that you see on the third picture, which is called Larderello, is produced with its surrounding sort of facilities, is producing around 10% of the world's geothermal power. So it's there's not just some flowers and cute medieval hamlets. It's all combined in this area. Where does the idea of creating this collective come from? So the band itself was launched in 2018 after 3 years of preparation with the people who are now the core components of the band. And just looking at the time, and these 3 years of preparation are on top of things I started doing in 2004-05, plus other things. And there's a link specifically to the musical parts. And this is combined with other people who have expertise in other sectors. This is an article from January 2019. So this was a few months. We were just starting. We had like 3 or 4 performances at the time. And what this local newspaper, but with a big full page, was posting is that was sort of announcing the appearance of this jug band. And it's even was, at the time, it was defining us as proposing a new genre of art. This is a bit bold, but those of you who deal with the media will know that the guys who write the titles of articles it's a specific expertise. They always tend to overload the title so that people are attracted to the news. But let's say this sounded a bit bold to me when I read it, but nevertheless, they wrote it, so it's okay. And we see what happened in the meantime. So, and the other thing is that when we launched the band, we were to characterize it, since I have my technical scientific background as a geographic information system specialist, and Wolfgang is a farmer for 50 years. He worked as a biodynamic agriculture consultant. We decided to call the thing geomusic, referring to geography plus music. In fact, in time, as an evolution, we shifted from calling this geomusic or geomusic to something which it's a bit difficult to pronounce. In Italian, we have concertistica, which is in general the activity of giving concerts. And then there is concetto, which is a concept. So in Italian, we're calling it concettistica because we're merging concerts and concepts. And in English, I still haven't found yet a good word, but for those of you who do programming, there is something called regular expressions where you can plug a combination, you can choose the letter you prefer. Anyway, to make this linear, there is music as a sort of a channel that we use, and non-music, which can be geography, it can be agriculture, it can be, what is it, other stuff, light pollution, awareness raising, and this all goes together. So there is a design to make this happen, but there is also a fair component of improvisation. And in speaking about this with lots of people, I had a bit sort of a dilemma, because what are we doing? Did we design the jug band and then we improvise to adapt this to different concepts? Or are we completely improvising this, but then using some design frameworks that we have as engineers? Or as one of my advisors, Ali G, would say, whatever, we just do things, okay? Then we can make a theoretical framework of what we're doing, but the core is actually delivering things to people. So, as an example, this is actually a frame from the video before. This was in a bookshop bistro in Follonica in our area back in October with a guest from Köln, Klaus de Geiger, who is 81. So we are definitely intergenerational, because the guys on the right are 30 and I am 54, and Wolfgang in the middle is 75. And we also had other combinations of ages. And this is if you look at this, this is a concert. Then if you go back to May 19, we were on our way to Stuttgart and Ludwigsburg for our first European tour. And we have Wolfgang, who is actually giving a lecture. He's showing things to people. And there are Dario and Simone, who in this case are listening. But what you see that in the desk by the blackboard, there is a laptop, but there is also actually I see there a box of wine, which it's all a bit of a mix-up, as you see. So these are concerts and concepts. What has also evolved in time is what we bring as ancillary pieces. So for those, because the point is that if you have a band that goes to perform, the band will typically have a merchandising desk with the stickers, the CD, the poster, the T-shirt. We have more or less the same, plus things, sensors, charts. So this was actually at the DITO final conference in Brussels. Some of you, actually, most of you were there. And then the same set, as I say, gets adapted to different places. This was in a cafe in Brussels a few weeks later. This was in Florence in December as a sort of appendix to a fair on cultural management. This is my place in Tatti at the end of the first lockdown. This was recently in Florence for another edition. So just to say that these things apparently, they seem all sort of thrown casually over a table, but maybe they're not. Where have we been? To date, we have given about 50 performances, mostly in Italy, plus this European tour 3 years ago. As I said, you can either show up in typical concert locations, such as pubs, theaters, you name it. But we also do sets in universities or libraries or whatever. And this is generating curiosity and requests. So this is ongoing. Plus, we had the online presence. A very, very quick timeline on a few dates. We don't have to go through all of this, but This is all roughly placed in time, sort of T0 on March 15, developing with continuity. I would say interesting steps would be February and April 17, because this is the first time we went once for a national conference on geographic information systems to give a presentation where with the music and the poster, and this is in the abstracts. Or in April 2017, we gave a talk through the GEO for All mailing list. Some of you might be on that list as well. We gave a presentation with the band who was playing bits and pieces. So that was starting. Eventually, February 19 was the first time I met people from this working group in Paris, and so forth. And on the right, there are some, this is a movie that we have basically. The crew, the main members here, left to right, and I actually invited some of them to be online, but they're all doing their different things, so it was not a good time for them. Dario on the left, this is myself with a bit less beard in the summer. Simone, Wolfgang, then Alessio Ricci is there, plus other people not on the picture. But anyway, and thing to be noted is that as an environmental engineer and planner, I'm looking at socioeconomic impact of what we do. I was invited several times in European Commission / NASA / other big entities to discuss socioeconomic impacts of Earth observation, of the Inspire Directive, of you name it. So I'm just doing it for the jug band. Interesting things that we are measuring are revenue, because if we play, we get paid to play. This is a profession, this is not a hobby. This is difficult for many people to accept, but it's not a hobby, I'm sorry. And territorial marketing, because since we are strongly linked to an area, we bring the place with us. You know? But the most interesting thing in our context of the call is maybe that we have educational training credits which are embedded in what we do. This has actually started before the band was performing, because since 2017, through for our main citizen science project, which is called the Buiometria Partecipativa, the dark sky monitoring project, we have giving educational credits to several people, and this is just flowing into the band activities. Repertoire, for those of you who may be interested, is mixing songs of Etruschi from Lakota, which is the previous band where Dario and Simone were playing. They were a fairly big national band. They had 3 albums touring Italy, France. We also have original songs that especially Dario and myself are writing, also on apparently non-conventional topics, like stimulus funding for renovation of buildings as an environmental engineer or other things. And another interesting part is the cultural mediation, because in Italy and many non-English speaking countries in the Mediterranean area, especially, people don't know English well enough to know what songs are saying. So we are in some cases taking songs which are in English and actually creating covers of these songs. Lockdown response. Since this happened, we did things, we did not stop with the lockdown, even though clearly the live and in presence events were not working. We did other things. We launched another community-based project called Participatory Lithology, which actually was launched during the first lockdown on the 21st of March 2020, and it ran through May. And this was in a period where nobody knew what to do apart from watching, you know, if you were safe at home, you would be watching web series. We did something new, and this had gave several people across Italy. Plus, it was one of the finalist projects at the Falling Walls Engage 2020 competition. We had to create a digital hat to try and get some, when you go perform as a artist, you will be paid as anybody providing a performance or other services. But with the lockdown, this became a lot more difficult. And so we created, like we say, a street musician will have a hat, like a busking hat, and an online musician will have a digital hat. This is I will skip number 3 because it's a bit more complicated. Another interesting format which we created was in February, which was a bit of a transition period this year, because in principle, it would have been possible in big cities, especially things were happening in terms of events. But in rural areas, people were a bit more cautious. So it was not simple to start doing things out as live events. And we did these podcasts in principle, but as a sort of, we call them jugcasts to characterize them with the jug band. Mauro Tirannosauro, I have been introducing him. I will not say more at this stage. I will just say that he collaborates with the jug band. I already partly introduced the core group. What's interesting that all of these people wear at least 2 hats. So, well, I will not introduce myself because we speak more often, but okay, Simone is the actual, basically living 100% on music. Wolfgang, as I said, he was a street musician in the 60s in Germany, and he saw twice Jimi Hendrix live. So he has experienced interesting music as far as I'm concerned, but he worked as a printer. So all the graphics of the band are made with handmade Gutenberg style printing, or t-shirts are hand printed. And he has this one string bass. Dario, who is the lead vocalist, actually 2 years ago, he's aged now 31, he decided to start. He's already working before as a music educator for kids. And he actually started university. So he started his master in educational sciences. And this is very interesting because with the things that he has been studying in 1.5 years, he hasn't yet finished the 2nd year. He's now able to provide a sort of a theoretical background to what we are doing from an educational standpoint. And so, as I was summarizing in the end, Dario and Jack, myself, we do the writing of the songs and other material. Wolfgang does the graphics. And Simone is the yeah specialist. Whenever we need somebody to say, yeah, Simone will go, yeah. And he's very good at that. We don't match him on the yes. So this was in December quite recent, a few months ago. We were invited actually at Politecnico di Milano for a retirement party of my master's and PhD professor, Renzo Rosso. He's a Darcy medalist in hydrology, so he's a big authority in the field of hydrology worldwide. He's also a musician. So they invited us to play for him in this plenary session at the Faculty of Architecture. And then to sort of take advantage of going to Milano, we also organized this event in the radio, which was also streamed on video. And this show is basically, it's 1 hour. There are 7 songs, and so let's say half an hour of music and half an hour intertwined with the answers that we gave to for the interview. And this is, I think this is important to explain what we're doing and trying to share. And so I have transcribed and translated into English 1 hour of radio show because I wanted to let you know what we're saying properly. There is a link below, I will resend later. Okay, just to explain how this relates to empowerment, inclusiveness, and equality. A way to summarize the empowerment aspect, I would say that in this process where all these diverse characters work together, what happened is that engineers have started rocking, because I'm an engineer. I used to play guitar and drums since 1986, but now I'm considered a professional musician. I have people, when I go around, even without the band, people will stop me. How many hours a day do you rehearse? Or can you teach me? So at this point, I'm starting to feel qualified as a musician. The other most interesting part is that the rock and rollers start engineering, because especially Dario is doing things which are very conceptual with the average rock and roll vocalist. On inclusiveness, I would say that this collective by design picture is something that basically we're inviting anybody to collaborate with a motivation letter. And about equality, I would say that definitely there is a value in that you have to do certain things all together. You have to put your setup, all your amplifiers, you have to print t-shirts, and we do it together. So there is an equality component. What I'm seeing is that it works, but if you do less, in a way you are less equal. So however, since we roughly monitor how much everybody energy is putting in the project, and this is a collective, it's not a band with a object. We don't have a contract with the record label to produce one album per year. So this really shows how people in their different phases of life are part of this flow. What next? So in 10 days from now, we will be in Mezzolombardo. Mezzolombardo is just north between Trento and Bolzano, so in north, going towards Austria. We're invited to play at a big wine convention. There will be 80 producers from all over the world, from New Zealand to the United States. And we will have one of our concerts. In May, I think I wrote it down, and then I forgot to complete the line, but things are now happening. Then we have this June 30, we have a slot in the Living Knowledge Conference in Groningen. So we are gearing up to go there. And clearly we had the acceptance of the abstract, basically 1 week after the start of the, how's it called, special operation, which is happening east from here. So it doesn't sound like the best moment to design a European tour, but we are going for it for sure. And things I am periodically sending announcements to the mailing list, so you get what's happening. How to follow the band, the jug band. This is my comment towards some email providers, because at the beginning of the year, I started experiencing spam detection stuff. So sadly, I'm an old style. I started using email in 1993. I like email, but I'm using it less in this period. We have an Instagram account. We have a Facebook page for the band, but I tend to just post on my profile. Likewise for LinkedIn, or just go to the news section on jugbandcm.it or the PBINC.org website for more interdisciplinary stuff, which is sort of behind Jug Band, or send an email. How can you help? One of the main things, since we try to maintain all our material in 2 languages at least, and I tend to do most of this myself, but in October, November, this started becoming difficult, as in other periods in the past, because what we do is just too fast. So I issued a call for translators, which is basically permanently open. For Wolfgang, you can buy his Tati Stampa products, prints or t-shirts. We actually have a pre-order for a new set of t-shirts closing in 2 days. You can invite musicians to come to Tuscany and go to Simone's recording studio in the heart of Tuscany. He's half an hour from Pisa. Develop Dario's education science studies, and support what we call the non-formal education tour 2022 to go to the Living Knowledge Conference. I was thinking of a way how to present the band, and instead of wanted, I proposed a researched recorded of live for the components, because what came out also in previous interactions with this community, you people listening, but even other communities, is that basically we tend to have, I have been a proper researcher for at least 10 years. So I tend to, and I still do my research and my publications. But the point is that what we have found is that what we're doing is basically more than research, can be seen as the subject of research for other people who are the traditional researchers. And so there is this sort of research recorder live, which is now going around Europe for research on what we do. So this was the presentation. I didn't really look at the timing, but see, I might have, comunque, see, I was, va bene. I'm going back to, I will stop sharing at this point. Voila.
Maybe I'll
Thank you.
stop the recording also.